Thanks everybody for coming this afternoon. My name is Jennifer Gabrielli. I'm Global Chief of Staff for CCS, for those of you who don't know me, and recently have taken on the post of Regional Cultural Champion along with Jane Fanning, who I don't see here today. But in our roles, we're here to help the various IB action streams advance their missions. So for those of you in the room, you probably know we have 5 action streams where a number of employees across the business volunteer to help address some of the issues, either tackling our business specifically here at UBS or the industry-wide issues faced in financial services. All of the volunteers are really passionate, and it's their hard work that brings a lot of the programming, such as today's event, to you all. Today's speaker event is hosted by the Leadership Edge and Talent Place Action Stream, which are sponsored by Rob Karofsky and William Barricker. The key component of that action stream is to be a tool to attract and retain the best talent and to provide career development opportunities to those across the IB. This takes multiple forms. You've probably heard about the Rotation 100 program, where staff can rotate into other business areas for a period of time. There's mentoring and sponsorship opportunities at all levels. There's line manager training, and a number of speaker series such as this one. Today we are lucky enough to have MichaelSteib here, who is referred to us by CCS employee Todd Mahoney. And he, for those of you who didn't see the sign-in sheets, he's going to tell you about his work, but there's an upcoming book. And if you sign in, I am assured that Melissa and team are going to find a way to get you that book when it gets published early next year, right? Beginning of 2018. So I'm pleased to introduce Mike. He's the co-author of the Career Manifesto, which is an inspiring research-based, field-tested guide to discovering your calling and having an extraordinary life. He's also the CEO of XO Group, a publicly traded technology company whose stock has doubled in the 4 years Mike has been CEO. He's held various senior positions at Google and NBC Universal as well. He's a nationally recognized expert on careers and success, and some of you might have seen his YouTube video because we've passed that around. He's been featured on the Today Show and in a variety of publications from Entrepreneur Magazine to Fortune. His new book, coming out from Penguin Random House, is available for pre-sale, but everybody here can get one from us when it's available next year. And he's received praise from industry leaders, authors, and creative visionaries. So I am told from the earlier session that today is very exciting. It's proved really fruitful, so I'm very pleased to welcome Mike to you.
Thanks. You guys hear me okay on this? We're good? Sort of the end of day session. Energy's all right? You guys are good? All right, I had the lunch crew before. They were great. You got a lot to live up to. So here's what we're gonna run through today. I've written this book, and sort of prior to writing this book, I should say, you know, my hobby or my passion is being a student of what makes people successful. I read a lot on the topic, from human psychology and the principles of influence to military tactics for organizing teams and how to have good meetings and how to be more productive and all this stuff that can factor into really successful careers. But this all, for me, started, 10 years or so ago, my own professional journey, because I was sad. I had a career that was misaligned to my personal goals, what was exciting and important to me. It was a good job. My mom was proud. But there was something about it that just didn't motivate me day to day. Part of it was I just wanted to be more senior, but part of it was I don't think I was doing quite what I was put on this earth to do. And I've heard, I don't know this factually, I don't work in IB, but I've heard that this is true of some people in investment banking as well. According to eFinancialCareers.com, it's very common for investment bankers to cry in the bathroom. And I used your men's room today, and I can't confirm this, but I have a suspicion that there was something to the reports. So what we're going to do is, I don't know if you might be able to tell, I'm tethered. They put me on a leash so that I wouldn't leave with the microphone. I'm going to try not to trip. And so here's where this started. I had a nice job and a good title, and I was working with senior people at a prestigious company, and a friend of mine who was a kindergarten teacher asked me to come in and speak at Career Day. And after I gave a little introduction on what I do, kids come up and they ask you questions, and a little girl, probably 6, came up and said, I have 3 questions. I said, okay. And she said, the first one is, where is your office? I said, my office is in Midtown Manhattan. She wrote it down. And then she said, do you bring your lunch to work? And I said, it's a very good question. I don't, but I should. It would save me a lot of money. Thank you. And then she said, is your job important? I said, well, I mean, capital allocation is a really important driver of success for a company, and my function's more strategy than execution. And I mean, granted, I don't do any of it, but I inform the decisions made by others. And I started to trail off, and she said, "Mister, I'm just supposed to write yes or no." I said, no, I guess not. And I went home, and I was like, shit. Now I have an existential career crisis that a 6-year-old gave me at career days. It's like, all right, so I started this project. It's like, all right, if you have a problem, you just have to study the problem, break it down into its component parts, and solve it. So I started by breaking down this career challenge I had into its component parts, writing out the things that I sort of want to do, who I want to be, et cetera. And from that, over the next 10 years of my career, I got a chance to do that same exercise for probably hundreds of people who've worked in or around my teams who've had the same kind of question about their own career. So we're going to do it here. I've laid out the 6 steps. And for those of you who sign up for the book, you'll get a sort of chance to see all this in detail. We're going to run through it here and make sure we have time for questions, but sort of the 6 steps to fulfilling and exciting and successful career, the career you deserve. Number 1, have an existential crisis. So I had mine. Let me see if I can give you yours. The odds of your parents meeting, procreating at the exact moment that they did, and you being the child that was born, is something like 1 in 10 billion. And the odds of that having happened with every successive layer of your family tree back 200,000 years of human evolution is something like 1 over 10 to the 45,000th power. So the odds of you being born were extremely, extremely low. And that's a gift. It's like a great gift. And at the time, I was using it to draw 2x2 bubble charts for people who didn't read them. I thought, I can do better than that. I know I can do better than that with my life. But, you can take your time, right? It's not all that urgent. Well, then I found this website. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called deathclock.com. Deathclock.com runs actuarial tables, and it asks you some personal questions. Do you exercise? Do you smoke? I know this is morbid. I told you it was a crisis. I don't know, do you fly third world airlines? Like all these questions, and then you fill it in, and it told me that on May 18th, 2069, I was going to die. So I was like, all right. So, there's like a very low percentage chance that you'd be born, and there's a 100% chance you're going to die, and you've got this very brief moment in between, and what am I going to do with it? Well, I found that to be very motivating. I found it to be very clarifying. In that context, a lot of things like, do other people think your job is prestigious? Doesn't really matter a whole lot. Things like, did I get the promotion to senior account manager level 2 before one of my colleagues? It didn't matter a lot. What started to matter a lot more to me in that context was, what kind of impact could I have with my life? Was I doing work that was aligned to the things I care about, the things that I enjoy? And I found 2 exercises. There's a bunch in the book, but I found 2 exercises to be particularly useful. First one, just took a blank sheet of paper, my name in the middle, and then tried to map out how much impact was I actually having with my life the time that I did the exercise. And it was all right. I was having some impact at work, but honestly, my value over replacement player wasn't all that high. I did a little bit of community work, but I could have done a lot more. Family-wise, I had a cat, but cats actually do fine in the wild. So, I just it wasn't, I looked at that and thought, okay, I know I can do better than this. And I started to wipe the page and just run the exercise over and over again with different scenarios of things that I could do professionally. And you go into an exercise like this, and it's safe to assume you can do just about anything. I'm sure you guys I've met a lot of successful people. There's nothing all that special about them. They've got a plan. They work hard. They work their plan. They get a couple good breaks, and eventually they're successful. So if there's a field you're really interested in, you can thrive in it. Now, you all are in a good field. I didn't know what I wanted to do. At one point in this exercise, I called NASA and asked what you have to do to be an astronaut. I was a little bit lost in the woods. You have to be a pilot, so forget it, I'm not a pilot. And I don't want to take time to become a pilot. But what I did discover is like I like business leadership. I like pulling together teams and being in charge of teams, driving products forward. But I in addition, went through an exercise of like being more precise about what are the things at work that I really enjoy and what are the things that I really don't like. What are the things that really piss me off? Because whatever you pick here, you're going to be doing it 60 or 70 hours a week for like 40 or 50 more years. So, you know, when I did the impact map, one of the previous slide, one of the things I really liked, or one of the things I identified as like an area where I could have a lot of impact was, you know, the most impactful thing you could do from a nonprofit sense is distributing mosquitoes in areas affected by malaria. Like this is distributing mosquito nets. It's a big deal thing. But like, I really hate travel and I really hate bugs and I really hate being hot. So I wanted to find something that I would enjoy that was also impactful. So I started running through the list and thinking about what are the things at the office that I do that are fun for me. You know, there are some people who really like to organize things. Like they belong in operations. You see their desks. It's like a psychopath sits there. There's just like one mechanical pencil and the computer is all perfectly aligned to the monitor. Like that's someone who should be organizing the world. That is someone who should be aligning sales compensation plans to behaviors. And then there are people who just like love sales, love being with clients. And you can probably often also tell by their desk, because there's like a big thing of Advil and like a half-eaten hoagie from 2 days ago, and it doesn't look anything like the operator's desk, right? One of these, or multiple of these, might describe you. I liked, you know, the things I knew I liked pulling together and leading teams. But what are those activities that stir your animal spirits? And then what are the industries? For me, I had a lot of interest in technology. I really liked tech. I felt like you could really impact people's lives in consumer-facing tech. So I started to narrow down. Generally speaking, I knew that that's where I wanted to be in my career. Now, you all are at a great company, already on the rails. There are a lot of folks earlier in their careers who haven't even settled into an industry or a job function yet. And this kind of thinking can be really productive. I also just knew things that I didn't like. I don't want to live on an airplane 250 nights a year and so on and so forth. So this is, if you're developing a consumer product, something we do at my company all the time, you set design constraints. There are things that like you must have, right? Like an iPhone must make phone calls. And then there are things that it would be nice if it could do. It'd be nice if it had an app that would connect you to sexy singles nearby or something, right? But there are like hard design constraints and soft design constraints. And in your career, a soft design constraint might be, I'd love to live in New York City, but I'm happy to move for the right opportunity. A hard constraint might be, I need to make a certain amount of money professionally. Or I just have to work with great people, people who really inspire me. But going through the act of actually writing those down, what are the negotiable and non-negotiable ones, starts to bring a lot of clarity. I had a friend who really wanted to work in education, but just sort of his life's constraints were such that it wasn't going to be as a school teacher. It wasn't going to be as a principal. Like it just didn't work. It didn't work financially. But as an entrepreneur in the ed tech space, an operator in the ed tech space, he could hit his design constraints and work in the thing that he had a lot of passion for. So this exercise, it's a highly personal one. It should be different for everyone. And I think the important takeaway is that your employer doesn't know what it is for you. No one else knows what the answer to this is for you. You have to be the CEO of your own career and know exactly what things motivate you and are important to you and you want to go after professionally. And then there's one I'll call out, because what I've found in my career is as soon as you figure out what it is you want to do and you try to make a change, the universe colludes to stop you from doing it by offering you a 15% raise. It happens every time. It happens absolutely every time. And so there's an exercise I've often encouraged my friends to do, because I have friends who have a job, they're dying to leave it. They've got a new opportunity they're really excited about. It's well aligned to their career, and then their employer says, wait, don't go. We were just about to promote you. Let us promote you. Let us refresh your equity. And they tell themselves this story. They say, you know what? If I stay now, take the money, then in a few years, then I can really do anything I want, right? Problem is, as soon as you get the money, you spend it. So my friend who used to be in a share house in Quogue now owns a house in Montauk. Now you really have to stay. Now you need the money. You've still got 22 more years of mortgage payments. So the exercise that I've always encouraged people when they're at this moment of thinking about their career to do is take all those year-end credit card statements. It's like the diary of all of your bad decisions for the year. You lay it out. However much you spent last year, you will never, ever, no matter what you do, spend less than that. It's impossible. I've never met someone who's reduced their expenses. Have you ever seen personal wealth experts go on CNBC and they say, the path to becoming a millionaire is just to stop drinking lattes at Starbucks every day, because with compounding interest, it adds up to $1 million over your life. Have you heard this? Yeah, I've met people who are rich. I've never met one who's been like, I just stopped drinking lattes. I just cut back on some frivolous expenses. Let me tell you something. Once you've had the good latte, you're going to have it. That's part of your life now. So what you can do before it's too late is add up all those expenses and say, I'm pretty happy with the stuff I have. Double it, because you have to pay your taxes. Layer a little bit extra in for retirement. That's how much you need to make, right? That's the golden number. Below that, your significant other might leave you. So just lock it in, right? That's how much you need to make. Then, when someone offers you more, and eventually, this is a group of ambitious people. You come to optional sessions on how to have a good career. Eventually, you'll be in a position where someone's offering you more than you need. You don't have to turn it down. You can still take it. Just understand that you shouldn't trade off all those other things in the chart for that. Fixed versus flexible design constraints. And how you think about the trade-offs that are important in your life is a key to making some of these really important choices at each step in your career. So then, and you may be here already. You may already know the impact that you want to have. You may already know the job that's right for you. But what I've observed with people who are successful, what I've observed they do really well, is they have a North Star. They have a sense for where they're going to be at some point in their careers. They can tell you, oh, I'm going to be the CEO of a company like such and such. They can tell, I'm going to run. I have a friend who's been getting ready to run for Congress since college, and he's a congressman now. They know, generally speaking, what's that North Star? Where do they want to be? And it could be an industry luminary, a public servant. It could be a great operator, someone who's an inspiration. It could be the head of fixed income syndicate for the Americas. It's like whatever motivates you, whatever you're passionate about, is that thing to put on the horizon and say, that's where I want to be professionally. And then, you know where you need to be. If you know what that person is like, you just deconstruct that target job into all of the experiences and skills that the person in that job has. And ask yourself how you're going to get it over the next 10 or 15 years. So when I did this exercise, I was like, okay, I want to run huge teams and lead a company and design products. And at the time, nobody worked for me. And one of the key requirements of being able to do those big jobs is you have to be good at building teams and leading people. So then you're like, okay, well, how am I supposed to go get a job leading people if I'm not qualified to lead people? There's this catch-22. I can't get the experience if I don't have the experience. I can't get the job because I don't have the experience. And I found two tools that are really powerful in jumping the queue. The first one is if you have a good relationship with your manager. There's a professor of leadership of some sort or another at Columbia Business School. His name's Michael Feiner, and he has a book called The Finer Points of Leadership. And one of his points is the career covenant. When you do good work for your manager owes you an investment in your career. But you're only going to get that if you ask for it. So if you ask your manager, hey, there are 2 or 3 things that I really want to learn over the next couple of years, and I'm more than willing to put in the overtime, the extra effort to learn them. Will you help me? One of mine was I wanted to manage people. So I came back to my manager. I said, I want to manage people. Well, I've got an idea. I'm going to start an intern program at the company. And we'll take some business school kids, and then you can give me one. And then I will be managing someone. So I went from managing no one to managing Felix, the business school intern from Columbia. But that's a big jump. 0 to 1 is a much harder jump than 1 to 2. And then I got some more people. And then I was able to demonstrate some success as a manager. And then it wasn't hard for people to promote me into a role managing others. The second is side hustle. If you really want to get to develop a skill set around marketing, then you raise your hand and say, I'm going to help with such and such marketing project. The cost of this, the trade is you've got to do it. It's a nights and weekends job. You can't take time out of your own job to do it. You got to get your day job done. You got to be Clark Kent and Superman. Be Superman on the weekends. So those are two ways that you can, I don't know, jump that skills or experience gap in your career. But then, as you're listening to this, you're thinking, bro, I do not have time to start an intern program. I can barely get my job done. I still haven't done my 2016 taxes or my laundry. Where is the time to do this? We don't, generally speaking, as professionals, we're out of time. It's our scarcest, most valuable resource, and there's no time. So here's the thing you can do. It's very insightful. When you get a chance, take your phone and go to settings and go to battery. And in there it shows you how much time you've spent in each app this week. And if you're the average American, you spend 3 hours with social media apps or YouTube or SMS. And if you're using social media apps and YouTube to develop your professional skill set, I'd be very impressed. Probably what you're doing is digging around, because that's what everybody does on Instagram and Facebook and so on. The average American spends 3 additional hours a day watching TV. And if you look at how you just break down your day, deconstruct the hours in a day. If you're ambitious, you're working 60 or 70 hours a week. If you're sleeping as much as you're supposed to, you're sleeping 8 hours a day. If you exercise every day, if you eat and bathe, which I completely support, 19 hours a day are spoken for. There's 5 hours left. You get 5 hours. That's your 5 hours to live. Now, it doesn't feel like a lot, right? It's actually, if you believe Malcolm Gladwell, you can be an expert in anything in 10,000 hours. So at 5 hours a day, in 5 years, you could be a concert pianist, if that's something you're into. So you can do that. 5 hours a day is roughly the number of hours worked by the average white-collar French professional. So you could have your job, and you could have a French middle management job all in one day, if you so desired. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time, but we all spend it like this. We all spend it like this. And we spend it like that because there's no, think about how your day goes. You don't spend 3 hours a day at work watching TV, because you've got a calendar full of important stuff to do, and you honor your calendar. Then you get home, and you don't. You're like, I'm home, finally. And you do whatever you want. Now, if you so choose, you could spend that time learning about, studying, investing in all of the topics and areas of skill development that are important for your career. If it's networking, you could spend the time networking. If it's learning about how to tear apart a balance sheet, you could spend the time with those textbooks. If it's studying leadership, you could study the great leaders. If it's being a good public speaker, you can record yourself walking back and forth like this in your apartment, and then watching the videos. You can do whatever you want with your time. But in order to get there, you've got to zero-base your calendar. You've got to pull out all the stuff that you're doing today that is not helping you to be successful. You start replacing it in the calendar with the things you want to do. If you would like to read 20 books this year, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. You have to block out 35 minutes of your day, and you have to honor it, and you have to read for 35 minutes. And you'll read roughly 20 pages, and 20 pages a day over 365 days adds up to 20 books. So if you had on your personal development plan, there are these 20 great books on leadership or management or on the industry or anything else that I really want to read. The only way you'll get it done is if you spend 35 minutes a day on it. And the only way you're going to spend 35 minutes a day on it is if you schedule it just like you schedule meetings at work and one-on-ones with your manager and whatever else. We'll come back to sleep and exercise is important. And then the last part is, what's really hard is that so much conspires to distract you from that plan in your day. So we're going to talk a little bit about why. I've spent, I went on this year-long journey to understand how your brain works, right? Know your enemy. And if it's a topic that interests you, Daniel Kahneman is a PhD in psychiatrist who's written a lot on how the brain works. And he boils it down to there are two systems in your brain, system 1 and system 2. System 1 is the one that evolved first. It's like the brain that lizards have. If there's a loud noise, you jump, that's system 1. If someone sneezes, you say bless you, that's system 1. If you see brownies, you desire to eat them, that's system 1. System 2 is like, system 2 is the one that can follow the plot of Homeland. System 2 is the part of your brain that understands that you really want to spend a lot more time reading the classics, reading great fiction. System 1 is like, I wonder what's on Netflix. And that's the tension in your brain. And the problem is the lizard system is in charge. Kelly McGonigal describes this as like system 1 is the elephant and system 2 is the guy trying to ride the elephant. So how do you get the elephant under control? You guys will all get copies of the book, and there's a bunch in there, but there's two particular hacks that I really enjoy on this topic. And it's, if there are things that you don't want to do, add a step to that thing. And if there are things that you do want to do, remove a step. So I'll give you an example. Some nights you get home from work and you're like, you've got a plan. You got a lot of work you want to do. You want to get ahead on a presentation. There's something you're going to be working on tonight. Or there's a great book you want to read, what have you. And then you see the TV, and system 1 is like, come on, let's just watch a little bit of TV. One episode of Stranger Things. You put it on, you sit down, you put it on, and then 4 hours later, Netflix goes, are you still watching? Does that ever happen to you where the thing pops up on the screen and asks if you're still there? Even Netflix feels bad about how much of your life you're wasting watching Netflix. If that's a problem for you, unplug your cable box. Now, it still works. You can still watch television, but you've added a step. You have to plug back in the cable box. And it's an old computer, so it takes time to reboot. And when you come in and you're like, all right, I got all this stuff to do, and then you see the TV, you're like, oh, I'm just going to watch TV. And you're like, oh, I unplugged the cable box. Fuck it, I'll just read a book. You've made it harder to do the thing that you didn't want to do by adding a step. My children eat almost exclusively dinosaur chicken nuggets. You ever had a dinosaur chicken nugget? It's absolutely delicious. With dinosaur chicken nuggets in the house, there's no chance I'm going to eat vegetables. Unless I add a step. I put these little nuggets in a Ziploc bag, and then I turn it over, and I put it in another Ziploc bag. So you have to open 2 Ziploc bags to get to them. So now I just eat a carrot, because it's easier. So add a step. So trick number 1, how do you trick system 1 in your brain? You add a step. Another thing you can do is you remove a step. So if it's something you really want to do, simply you really want to take vitamin B supplements, leave them on your desk. They're right there looking at you. Remove a step. Something I did, I always had the hardest time getting up in the morning to go to the gym. And the alarm would go off, and before you go to sleep, you just swear, I swear to God, I'm going to wake up and work out. I am going today, tomorrow, that's the day I'm going to do it. And the alarm goes off, and you're like, after work. Definitely going to do it after work. And it's another day. So I started doing this bizarre practice. I put my gym clothes on at night, get in bed. My poor wife, she's like, what are you doing? Dress for the gym. And I leave my sneakers by the front door with the keys in the sneakers and an alarm in sneakers. So then the alarm goes off. I jump out of bed. I have to run to get the alarm so it doesn't wake up my kids. And I'm standing at the door in my gym clothes, holding the sneakers and the keys, facing the exit. It's so much easier now to go to the gym. It's actually a lot harder to get back in bed. You feel like a real loser when you put the sneakers back and you go get back in bed. Adding a step to the things you don't want to do and removing a step from the things, adding a step to the things you don't want to do and removing a step from the things that you do. It's a powerful way to trick those parts of your brain that were basically designed to get you to eat carbohydrates and lay down. All right? So that's, if you enjoyed that, you're going to love the book. All right, so here's the next part. Let's say you did this whole thing. You know your personal mission and where you want to be in your career. Let's say you've laid out the career plan. You know all the skills and experiences you want to get. You've created a bunch of side hustle projects. Your manager is mentoring you like a boss. Like, things are going great. You've created the extra time in your life to do it, and you are clicking off like every single thing on your career roadmap. You're checking them off. If no one knows you and likes you, it will not matter, because all of the best opportunities out there for you are not going to be posted on a job board. It's going to be an opportunity that comes up and someone thinks of you. And so the next most crucial ingredient in your career plan is the strength of your personal network. And so we're going to spend just a couple of minutes talking about how to build out your professional network. Think of it in 4 layers. There are people you don't know at all, and people you just kind of know, and then people who you know intimately, and then people with whom you have a real meaningful connection. And as much as LinkedIn has tried to automate this, like, this is still old-fashioned. People know you and care about you, or they don't. Like, there is no CRM, the customer relationship management tool, that will solve that. So how do you get people to actually like you and care about you? Well, first you have to care about them. So here's the framework I want you to have. People think like you collect sort of names and titles and people you met somewhere, and then that's a person in your network. Like Monday, I got 2 emails. First one was like, "Dear Mike, we both went to Penn. Go Quakers. Have you thought about your wealth management opportunity?" I'm like, ugh, bleh. And this guy probably had me on a list of like, people in his network. So that was gross. And then I heard from a friend who's done like unsolicited a number of things that demonstrating that he cares about me over the 10 years that I've known him through work. And he said, "Hey, we're trying to get our kids into preschool, and I know your kids go to preschool in New York. Like, do you have any advice?" I'm like, "Advice? I'm going to get your kids into preschool. I care about you." First guy, I didn't even want to respond to his email. The second guy, I'm calling admissions officers at preschools trying to get his kids in. What's the difference? The difference is just that you like someone. You have an urge to help. So imagine living in a world in which you've done a lot of nice things for a lot of people, and they like all want to do something nice for you. That, you can't quite map direct line to how it's going to come back to you, but my experience has been that it comes back to you in a big way. So how do you get there? First, you know the thing at work? There's someone who sits like 15 feet from you, and they've worked here for like 6 months, and you don't know her name, and she doesn't know yours. And now it's just so awkward. You're just like, God, I hope she gets another job somewhere else. Like, we're never going to know it. This is like, you can't deal. And you're not, you're on that, you have that kind of relationship where you both know that you sit near each other and you see each other and you're like, you don't say hi. Like, if things really warmed up, you'd be like, "Hey, buddy." But this is it. You just don't know each other. This had always been a problem for me in my career because I'm an introvert. And moreover, I have a medical condition that it's called resting bitch face. It's for some reason, like when people look at me, they just see someone that they're like, I'm not gonna like him. And that is because like we're designed as humans, we're always seeking out someone who looks like they will be friendly to us, right? Like if you think far enough back in evolution, you can see how that would have been a helpful thing to develop in your psychology. I spent 2 weeks practicing this. Someone who sort of was helping me become a better presenter was like, "We have to do something about your face." And so I spent, we're friends, guys. This is just between us. So I spent 2 weeks, I'd get on the 6 train, doors would close, and I'd look at someone, and I would just smile. Like a psycho. You have to try this. The weirdest thing happens. They smile back. People smile back. They smile right back at you. And then I'll like start sending some emails. And I look up, and this guy is still smiling at me. We are friends. Like if some shit went down in the subway right now, it'd be the 2 of us against everybody. Because we have smiled at each other. People want you to smile at them. They want you to make eye contact with them. And then, that other thing, this is the hardest threshold to cross. Have you ever been like at an industry event, wearing a name tag, and there's like someone next to you and you're standing and you're like, "What are we going to do? I'm supposed to be meeting people," and you have to turn to them and introduce yourself. You really don't want to do it, but once you do it, it just like breaks down this barrier, and there's a trick to it. It's all about sort of your body language is open and you just sort of shake hands, hi, I'm Mike. But if you just say, hi, I'm Mike, the person will just say back, hi, I'm Joy. And now you're like, well, we didn't get anywhere with that. There's this urge to reciprocate when you're meeting people. And if you say, hi, my name is MichaelSteib, this is my first time at UBS, I'm having a great day. The person will say back, hi, my name's Todd Mahoney, I've actually been at UBS for 18 years and I'm having a good day too. Whatever you say will be reciprocated. You see it in meetings. If you ever go to a meeting where you just try to kick off the meeting with the client and then someone you work with introduces themselves, but they do it with the whole biography. Oh, well, I went to grad school in Boston. After grad school in Boston, Harvard, I made my way to UBS. And then everyone in the room does a full autobiography. The next guy's like, well, I was born in Sweden. And it's like 30 minutes of the meeting is gone. Now, you can use that to your advantage. When you meet people, you give just as much information as you want, as you're hoping to get back. And now you know each other. And now you've successfully moved from not knowing each other at all to being somewhat familiar with someone. The next thing, and this is the magic, every single person has a favorite word in the English language. It's their name. People love the sound of their name. And you see this in, like, politicians are great with this. Politicians are like, it's great to see you, Mike. I really appreciate your support, Mike. And like every time they say Mike, you're like, well, I think that, but if your name isn't Mike, then you don't feel the same way. It's all about your name. I don't know about you guys. I come into a room and you meet three people, say, hey, I'm Jim, I'm Joe, I'm Todd, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember any of their names. They're gone. And then sometimes you're brave enough to ask them again, like, tell me your name one more time. And they're like, oh, I'm da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, I didn't catch it the second time. That's it. We're never going to be friends. We have no chance because I'll never know your name. And there are 3 tricks to remembering people's names. These are like scientifically proven. The first one is repetition. So you can hear someone's name, and if you just say it a bunch of times, you've got a good chance to remember it. Mike, 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 Mike. It's not perfect, but repetition is helpful. Problem is you hear people do it in conversation sometimes, where they like throw your name in like every 4 words. And you're like, all right, I get it. I'll wear a name tag. If you can't remember it, fine. The second thing is you can visualize someone's name. So if you visualize someone's name like drawn on their forehead or their shirt, if you visualize a name tag, you have a much higher likelihood of remembering it. It's just the way the brain works. But the third, the best way to remember anything is associative memory. People do these. There are competitions where you're given a list of words and you just have to remember them in order, and whoever can remember the most wins. Not everybody can play a sport, guys. So there's something for everybody. These are like these memory competitions. And the people who remember the memory competition and win the memory competitions create connections among the words. So the words are like bear, cigarette, train, ice cream, factory, da da da. And if you keep doing that and trying to just remember the words, you won't remember it. Associative memory is, there's a bear. He's smoking a cigarette. He's driving a train past an ice cream factory. Now I've said that to you. If I ask you tomorrow what those 5 words were, you will remember them. So when you meet someone, you have an opportunity to do the same thing. All right, so Mitch and Tony got us mic'd up and set up the event for today. And I'm like, Mitch and Tony. Oh, like Mitch and Murray and Glengarry Glen Ross. I'm here for Mitch and Murray. I'm on a mission from God. Now I won't forget it. It's Mitch and Tony. I'll just remember the names. I met a guy the other day, has this huge, thick head of hair like down here. He looks like Joseph Stalin. And his name was Joe. I'll never forget his name. He has hair like Stalin. He's a dog named Roosevelt, who was a president, who was like an evil world leader with hair like this, and then a great U.S. president. Every time they're like, Joe, where's your dog Roosevelt? Do you guys remember dog names? I can now remember dog names with these tricks. So I hope they work for you. The other thing is you'll meet someone and get to know their job a little bit. And there's an old joke. How do you know if someone is training to run a marathon? Just wait, he'll tell you. People love to talk about themselves. But the problem is, usually when we meet people, we're trying to get them to like us. So anything that they say about themselves, we're like, oh, I do that just better. Oh, I'm training for a half marathon. Oh, that's so cool. I ran a marathon once. All right, thanks, jerk. You're twice as good as me. I like you half as much as I did a minute ago. When you meet someone, you want to give like a little bit of information about yourself. You want to be positive about it, and then you want to pivot away from yourself and make it all about them. Right? So you get in the elevator on Friday, and someone's like, 80% of worldwide corporate elevator conversations are either about the fact that it is a Friday or how far we are from a Friday. You can do better. You can do way better. You get in the elevator, someone goes, hey, how you doing today? You say, well, I'm just glad it's Friday. Or you could say something interesting off of which you could pivot. Like, oh, we're printing a big deal today. I'm really excited about it. We've been working on it all week. What are you working on? And in 15 floors, you will get a piece of information, interesting tidbit about someone else. I have the displeasure of living on the Upper East Side of New York, which means socially your job is to go to these events where you have to get dressed up and then separated from your spouse and sit with strangers. And it's like $500 a plate. So that's fun. It's great. And so I always get a couple of strangers who inevitably, by the end of the dinner, will say to my wife, your husband is such an interesting guy. If you tortured them, they couldn't tell you what I do for a living, where I live, anything. I'm so interesting because I keep saying, that's fascinating. Tell me more about that. Oh, and so you left your husband for whom? Oh, your tennis instructor. How long have you been playing tennis? How many tennis instructors have you dated? I just want to know as much about you as I can possibly. And we all have this. We have this other thing, which is we don't want to look like we don't know something. Like the fear of not knowing something is overwhelming. Which means every time you guys meet someone at some party or event, and someone's like, oh, what do you do? You say, oh, I work in debt capital markets. They say, oh, that's cool. They have no idea what it is. And you have no idea what most other people do because it's intimidating to ask. I am like a 5-year-old. I'm like, debt capital markets, what is that? Tell me what that is. Where do you work? How many people work in your department? Well, how do the bonus structures work? When people leave those jobs, what kind of jobs do they go to? When they set goals for your team for the year, what are the goals? What would your clients say about you? We're halfway through dinner now. I know everything about debt capital markets. It's a bad example because one of you could call me on it. I should use a different example when I'm at UBS. But you get the idea, right? Asking and asking and asking, and people love to talk about themselves. And then you get to do the big thing, which is once you've met someone, you've remembered her name, you've gotten to know this person a little bit, you can be useful to them. I met a friend who was really into CrossFit. I avoided the temptation to point out that I'm in pretty good shape myself, which is left it about your CrossFit. I have a friend who just opened a CrossFit gym, had free passes. I emailed this person and said, hey, I know you like CrossFit. Do you want a free pass to this thing? Now I've done something for you. It's not that big a deal. Met someone, has kids. One of them is applying for school, wants to go to Penn State. I've got a guy who works for me, who went to Penn State, who's on the interview panel. And I asked, would you mind talking to this guy? And it took 30 seconds. And now I've helped somebody whose kid wants to go to a certain school. I got somebody a free workout. I wrote a research report that I thought a friend of mine who runs a bank would be really into, and I sent it to him. And it takes almost no time. But you're able to do it because you know what's important to this other person, because you took the time to ask and to get to know them. And once you've done that, in the same way that people have an urge to reciprocate when you tell them your first and last name and some interesting fact when you first met, well, you do a favor for someone, they are dying to reciprocate and bring that back to you. And that's not why you should do it. You should do it just because it's nice to live in a world where you can do nice things for people. But my experience has been that comes back, and it comes back over and over again. And every interesting job opportunity I've ever had has come through someone who I know that way. Every interesting professional opportunity, maybe not an open job, but this is someone you should know. This is someone I think you'd like to be connected to. This is something I think you'd like to attend. Has come from someone who I've done something for at some point in my career. And it just makes its way back. So then, you've got a plan, you know what you want to do, you're working your plan, you've mapped the entire trip, you're managing your time, you've built out your posse, and you've got a lot of stress because this stuff is stressful. Because everyone else is sitting around watching college football with their hand in their pants while you're out hustling to improve your career. So you're a little bit more stressed out. So there's a bunch in the book on how to manage stress. I'll give you a couple of quick ones. First one is, Did you ever meet someone who just doesn't believe in evolution? Ever? I have family in the South. I might run into this more than you do. And you're like, listen, the science is real. You give them all the science, you give them all the facts, and they're like, yeah, you might be related to chimpanzees, I'm not. This is how I feel when someone tells me that they do not need 8 hours of sleep a night. We all think we don't need 8 hours of sleep a night. There was a study done. They had two groups of people. One group slept 6 hours a night for 2 straight weeks. The other pulled 2 consecutive all-nighters. They had them compete in mental and physical tasks, and they performed the same. The only difference between the two groups were the ones who pulled 2 consecutive all-nighters said, look, I'm not going to do very well. I feel terrible. I'm really tired. The group that slept 6 hours a night for 2 weeks had no idea that they were sleep deprived and operating at a lower level. Our nation is chronically underrested. And when you are tired, you are more negative. You are a poorer decision maker. You're a lot less fun to be around. You have a 30% higher insulin resilience, which means lower insulin resilience, which means that you're much more likely to gain weight from the same number of calories. Everything is bad. Your life expectancy is shorter. And exercise, this one's been beaten to death. You know you're supposed to exercise. It's not only that it keeps you fit, and look, you guys all make good money. You can be chubby if you want. People are still going to like you. But you live 7 years longer if you exercise 5 times a week. You live 7 years longer. And you've got a lot you want to achieve. So it's a really good way to spend your time. If you spend, for every 1 hour you spend exercising, you're expected to live 9 hours longer. For every hour you spend sitting down and watching television, you're expected to live 21 minutes less. So at least, like, watch TV on the exercise bike. It'll net out, right? At least it'll net out. And both of these things really help you to manage your stress. The one other I'd lean on is it can also be very hard to stay positive when you've got a lot going on and you're stressed and you're stretched and you don't know if you're going to get it done and everybody's being mean. They've done it in labs where they have people fill out surveys about how happy they are. And generally these questions are like, how happy are you today? How happy were you yesterday? How happy were you a year from now? Does this make you happy? Does that make you happy? And they had one group of people just fill in the survey, and they had another group of people fill in the survey with a pencil in their teeth. And the people who hold the pencil in their teeth, their face has to mimic the physical act of smiling, and they report being happier. So the conventional wisdom would be that when something makes you happy, you then smile is backwards. You can actually make yourself happy by smiling. And this, if this is interesting to you, Martin Seligman is like the father of positive psychology, and he's written a lot on the topic, but essentially, you can take your stress levels down by just forcing yourself to grin and bear it for a little bit, the physical act of smiling. They've also found that the physical act of standing up straight and confidently makes you more confident. You release more testosterone when you stand up straight. Like the best thing you can do before a meeting, or even when you first get up in the morning, is get up, just stand up straight, strike a power pose, and your body releases more testosterone, and it actually makes you more confident. When you act like you're happy, you become more happy. When you act like you're confident, you become more confident. It's the kind of stuff you're not going to get in the Jack Welch book tour, guys. And the last one is express gratitude. If you write down every day 3 things that you are grateful for, it takes like 30 seconds. People who do this report being significantly happier and less stressed. If every day you just send one email to one person to say thank you for something, and it doesn't even have to be relevant. Mom, thank you for life. Mike. People report having lower levels of stress and higher levels of life satisfaction and happiness from doing that. The expression of gratitude is a very quick and easy tool that can actually make you happier and less stressed out in your life. We got time for questions. It's another free tip. If you stand there with your hand up long enough, someone will feel bad and ask a question. See? Good man. Thank you.
So I saw your chart of the 5 hours, for example, you give. But there's kind of a variable in there that I don't know if it accounts for everybody, but I'll take it for me. But there's the family component of it as well. So within that time that you consider free time, I have, let's say, 3 kids.
Yes.
So a lot of that component of time that I have when I get home is kind of dedicated to them. So I don't know necessarily that 5 hours is, I guess.
No, you're absolutely right. So we've got a pie chart that says you've got 5 extra hours, but then if you have kids, they're going to want some of it.
Yeah.
So here's, to me, there's sort of 3 takeaways from that. One, there's a place in in the curve of your career when you don't have kids. You want to be investing ahead of when the kids come, because these kids are a real liability professionally, guys. I'm sorry. It's just like it makes life a lot harder. And I have 2, so I know the drill. The second is, I'm a pretty good dad. They're not getting all 5 hours. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Like, dinner together, give a kid a bath, read a book, tuck them in, super dad night. We're an hour and 45 minutes into it. So you still got some time for yourself. The third is, and I see people, this is the worst way to do it, to try to do both. Do you ever see like the mom or the dad at the ice cream place with the kid, and the kid is like, this ice cream's so great. Like, life as a kid is wonderful. I love you. And the mom is like, Trying to do 2 things at once, you do nothing well. And so when you try to squeeze in the work so what I do I've got probably 2 hours a night where I'm really with my kids, and I come home and I put the phone away and there are no distractions, and it's sort of high intensity time with the kids. And then they go to bed, and I have these headphones that they sell at gun ranges, so you can't hear anything. So my wife puts on TV, and I put on the headphones, and I just get to work, and I work for a couple of hours, and then I get to sleep. So you're right. It's when you have kids, it's harder. I have a friend who runs an advertising agency, and he said, I can't keep up with these old guys. Their kids are all off at college. They can be there with the client like any day on a whim, and I've got all this stuff. So it's true. There's this 15, 20-year period in your life where you've got more to manage. But 5 hours goes a long way. Other questions? There's one back here. Sorry.
How different were you when you were in like middle management with no one reporting to you? You seem like you made like a pretty big personal transformation.
How different was I? Oh, I was insufferable. I'm unmanageable. One of the things that I've found professionally is people who do okay in their careers tend to view skills separately from their own sort of behaviors or personality. So I had a guy at one point, he was a sort of a good operator, but he sucked as a leader. Like, he just didn't get the team fired up. Like, it was no fun to have around. And simple stuff like you'd have drinks and everybody socializes, and he'd come with like 3 minutes left and tell you he had a lot of work to do. And he used to say, well, look, that's just my personality. I'm an operator. I'm not a rah-rah guy. And I'm like, fine, but you're never going to get promoted. When you conclude that there's a thing about you that is just a fixed way that you're going to be, it limits your growth. And when you have a growth mindset, you can change a lot. So, what I was like is that I told you I'm an introvert. Like, I think if you found people who worked with me when I was in my 20s, they'd tell you I was a dick. Excuse me. I'm sorry, we're recording this. A jerk. So you can cut that back in. They tell you I was a jerk. The second is that I think for a good portion of my career, for a portion of my career that I regret, I was probably more worried about what I was getting out of the job as opposed to what I was contributing to the team or the company. And that makes you stink at what you do, right? That's a what's in it for me versus what impact do I want to have. I was not a good presenter. I've taken like courses and stuff on this through my career, and not because I thought I was going to sell a book. The book thing is new. I just always observed, like, if you look at the senior people in an organization, like if you see a corporate dinner going on, you can tell who the boss is. Boss is just dressed a little bit better, sits up a little straighter, is more confident in the way he or she speaks. And so I just spent a little bit of extra scratch on better clothes and on training. I went out of pocket for myself on presentation skills training. And what happens is, everybody, nobody wants to think really hard and make decisions. So when there's some 27-year-old who just seems really confident and presents well, they're like, well, let's just give him more responsibility. He seems to know what he's doing. So to be honest with you, I sort of identified those things I needed to work on, and I worked on them without allowing myself to say, well, this is something about me that I'm not going to change. I think if it's something about if you have a growth mindset, you're always trying to get better and have more impact. That's helpful. Who knows? Is there anyone on the phone who'd like to ask a question? Now, last time we did this, and then no one asked, and then I got like 20 emails. So don't be shy. You guys can ask now.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any telephone questions, please key star then 1 on your telephone. Make sure your line is unmuted when doing so. And if you need to withdraw your question, it's just star 2. Thank you.
This is like my earnings calls. Hi, Mike. Victor Anthony from Axiom. Explain the revenue declines in Q2. All right, well, you guys, I invite you all to email me as well. Put it on the board. If you have any questions or there's anything I can do for you, we're all friends now. I'm msteib@gmail. You'll all get a copy of the book. I'd love to hear if you like it. I've never written a book before. If you don't, I don't want to hear from you, actually. But if you want to say anything positive, please email me. And this is where you'd find me on social media. So if you enjoy all of these tidbits about the effect of sleep, exercise on your psychology, you get it in spades there. And that's it. Melissa, thanks for having me. I thank the team. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.